Yes, yo. It's another episode of the Klyph Notes podcast. Yo, this one is from the latest recording of Klyph Notes live. We did this one at Portland Center Stage, the Armory in Portland, and it was so dope. Had a chance to catch up with a friend of mine, a cat who I've been building with for a number of years, someone who has been representing the Portland hip-hop scene for quite some time. He is an inductee, the Oregon Music Hall of Fame, and we get an opportunity to talk about that. He just released a new project with Maniac Loc called Red and Meth. We get to talk about that and so much more on this latest episode of the Klyph Notes podcast, Klyph Notes Live. You gonna dig this one, man. My friend, Cool Nutz. Support for the Klyph Notes podcast comes from Akepele Apparel, an idea born from a love of hip-hop, funk, and soul music and its surrounding cultures. With fashion being a huge visual part of the cultures, they've created expressive images to pay homage, invoke nostalgia, and showcase the elements that make up the lifestyle and cultures of these genres. Akepele, apparel for the music lifestyle. For more information, check out akepele.com. That's AKEPELE.com. Yes. Once again, y'all, thank y'all for coming out, man, to this live recording of the Klyph Notes podcast. How's everybody doing out there? It's like 5,000 people in the audience. It's crazy, man. The turnout is amazing. I wasn't expecting this, man. Actually, hold on, let me do this. Check 1, 2. There we go. So before I get started, man, I gotta give a couple of. Actually, how many people tonight heard that DJ OG1 was gonna be here? No, didn't know? Okay. That's good, because those of you who did think that OG1 was gonna be here, you may not have noticed he's actually not. Oh, I can take this off now, right? Oh yeah. He's not here. He's at the Portland Trailblazer basketball game tonight. So, but he did send me a video mix, so we're gonna be able to get into that a little bit later. Can I have you help me in showing a huge gratitude to Portland Center Stage here at the Armory and Jonas, Love Jones, for creating this platform for us, man. It's such a beautiful space. I'm so excited to be here to do this. Thank you so much. Also, the Klyph Notes podcast has been sponsored for a number of years by Akepele Apparel. My guy DJ Renz, aka Trent, is in the back with the Akepele Apparel table. I want to encourage people to go and check that out. He has some great merch back there, also some stickers and some other things available for us. And then, of course, I gotta give love to the person who stands behind, not stands behind me, who stands beside me as I do all these things. My lovely wife, who's here in the audience. Okay, let's get it in, y'all. Let's get it in, because y'all didn't come to hear me talk. I know. I have an opportunity to do an interview with someone who I've known for a number of years, who I've talked to on a number of occasions. People who are listening to this, who know of the Klyph Notes podcast. You've heard a couple of conversations with them, but it's been a minute since we've had a chance to catch up. And a lot of things have happened since we last talked, like a pandemic. So it's really cool to be able to catch up with this young man, someone who represents this art form that I love, and I'm really excited to talk about some of the things that he's working on. So please help me welcome to the microphone Portland's own Oregon Music Hall of Fame inductee, Cool Nutz. So what's good with you, man?
Oh, I'm great.
Got to get comfortable, no doubt. So like I said, I've had an opportunity to know Cool Nutz for a number of years. And whenever I have a chance to do these interviews, you know, I've just been real reflective over the last several months. I think it's just because I'm getting old, you know what I mean? And so I was thinking about when we met. And the first time that I met you was actually doing an interview. I don't know if we've ever talked about this. So I don't even remember. So I've been doing this for over a decade. This was like, I don't know, 15 years ago. You came through Metro East Community Media. I was connected with Ed Pierce, rest in peace.
Oh yeah, rest in peace, Ed. Yeah.
And he brought you out to do something on his his television show called The Underground.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yo, would you interview Cool Nutz?" And I knew of you, but I hadn't met you yet. And that was the first time that we connected, bro. And I've been just a fan of you, not as an artist, but just as a person for years, man. You know what I mean?
No, and I appreciate the continued support because you're one of the people that honestly, you know, as we progress in this thing in hip hop, you always continue to support us, and I appreciate that greatly, bro.
Absolutely,
on a serious level.
Nah, that's love, man. That's love. So like I said, we haven't had a chance to talk in quite some time, and a lot has changed. So a couple of questions that I had off top, man. How did you, as someone who is a working artist, also does artist management, does live radio, things that really require us to have space to move, how did you manage during the pandemic?
The crazy thing is the pandemic and the way it kind of came in was, I don't know if it worked out. It worked out good for me as an artist, the way I went into it, because the weekend before everything shut down, we had 2 shows. We had one in Spokane and one in Portland, with E40, Too Short, and Mac 10. And it was, I don't, you know, some people say the universe, some people say God, but I always say God works in mysterious ways, because those 2 shows, you know, they were sold out shows. I sold out of all my merch, and then it was like boom, that next week everything shut down. So I was like, as I always look back at it, I was like, it's crazy because we had 2 crazy shows, and then I blew through all the merch I had, and then the next week, within 2 weeks, I saw probably like $30,000 worth of business fall off the table. But it was like almost like releasing all this energy with those shows, and then going into it, but then having to adapt to pivot to like selling merch, you know, more online stuff, and then I managed Trap Kitchen, so we also were doing a lot of like catering and stuff for first responders and meal drops and stuff like that. So there were a lot of things that worked out in my favor during that whole time, to where when it first started, I really, like, honestly, I sat back and I'm like, this is going to be interesting, because it went from like supposedly like 2 weeks to like 2 years. 2 years. Yeah. And a big part of what I do is being out and about, traveling, being amongst the people, working at the radio, and doing all of that. So it was like, the timing, the way everything worked out, the way we kind of navigated it, and the way I was blessed to come through it. It wasn't as catastrophic as I thought it was going to be, you know, when it first started. So I was blessed, and I got to spend a lot of time with my family. Right. You know what I mean? Like my kids, like, you don't get much time where you are in the house with everybody on a consistent basis, and then it created other things for us to go do, like taking the kids out to ride bikes, going to the track to do stuff, taking my, you know, I picked up fishing with my son, and different stuff like that. So that was dope too. That's what's up. So there were some good things that came from it.
Those things are always cool to hear, because, you know, and everything is perspective. I don't know if I'm sure I've probably asked you this before, but is it lost on you at all that, like, you're a family man, you're a businessman, this, that, and the third, but you're like you're Cool Nutz. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you've been on stages with some of the greats, man. You've been in studios with, you know, with some of the people that we celebrate. You know, there's you know, you've literally toured the world. You mean?
I think that's the honestly, like, some of those things are the gift and the curse. Is like sometimes I feel like how you say, oh, you Cool Nutz, and it's like, I just look at even the music as something that I just do, that I love doing, and then being Cool Nutz came from that. Right. But at the same time, I'm Terrence. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when I say it's a double-edged sword, or I feel like sometimes in that space I'm sometimes a little too humble to my own detriment, in terms of, like, sometimes I don't even I don't even relish in some of those things like you said, like where I sit back and I'm like, man, we're doing New Year's Eve with Wu-Tang Clan.
Right.
You feel
right,
me? Like
right.
that's a big accomplishment, and I don't, you know, and maybe it's because I have so many things going on that I don't step back and sometimes appreciate all of that because it's sometimes so moving so fast.
Right.
Yeah.
So this year, I'm really, really excited for this year, for 2023, because this year we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Mm-hmm. August 11th is the official date, and again, just being reflective, I can think back to when I was first introduced to rap music. You know what I'm saying? And I can remember being at a place in my life where I just wanted it to be accepted, right? Because everyone was saying, "Oh, this is just a fad. It's going to pass." When we think about black radio, right? Even within the black culture, it wasn't accepted. You know, you could hear R&B and you could hear jazz and soul and gospel, but when you ain't playing that rap music on the radio and then being up, you know, staying up till midnight to listen, you know, coming up in the Northeast listening to WBLS and Mr. Magic and Molly Mall on the radio like at midnight. And then looking at now this art form that is interwoven into the fabric of everything all over the planet. As someone who does this for a career, when you think back to your beginnings, what are some reflections that you have on your beginnings and you know, being a part of this art form as we get ready to celebrate 50 years?
I feel like when I say, even with the music, this is something that is a part of me. Versus when we started doing music, I never looked at it like monetarily, or we didn't have no examples of like you could be a billionaire. Right. You know what I'm saying? So the music was, you did it for the love. I remember the first time I heard a record that inspired me was walking home from vacation Bible school or camp. Mm-hmm. You know, at what was it, Mallory Church, mm-hmm. and somebody had a radio in their window and they were playing Run DMC Rock Box, and I was like, man, what is that record? Right. And then I found out what that record was, but that record changed my whole perception of hip hop, because it wasn't a corny record. It was, you know, have you ever went over a friend's house to eat? It was more like, it was more hard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's so many blessings that have come from hip hop culture for me, in terms of like, I've seen the world, and that's in the capacity of whether I was rapping, whether I was tour managing, whether I was, you know, putting some other experience together, like, you know, or also being able to work with people like E40 and play a part in, like, first time E40 went to Europe, first time E40 went to Dubai, first time, you know, certain things that were monumental of me being a fan of somebody, but then being able to work closely with them to where I can contribute to their business or open doors and opportunities, or even be valuable to the equation. Right. And so for hip hop, I feel like there's so many things that I've seen and done through this culture, through this music, through this art form, that I don't know if I would have ever seen, or you know, just off the accord of, say, I graduated from high school. I did go to college. I went to PCC, but then say I decided, like, if I went to U of O for 4 years and went the course I went, would I have been in Japan? Would I have been in Amsterdam? Would I have been in Australia? Would I have been in all these places that rap music took me? What would have been the course of my life? Because, you know, I look at hip hop in terms of, like, I used to listen to the radio and tape it on a cassette tape, so I could go back and listen to stuff. I used to watch Yo MTV Raps or The Box, and you wait for a video to come on and tape it on a VHS, you know? But you had that love. Or even leaving high school and catching the bus to 2nd Avenue Records on Tuesday to see these albums that came out. Or we make a whole day out of getting the Snoop Dogg album. Like, those experiences, like, I feel like nowadays music is so, it's so disposable. Like, a rap record could come out as a classic or whatever, but it's here and it's here and then gone in what, a month, you know? And I'm still listening to something, but in terms of the overall impact. So I feel like the experience I've had in hip hop and where I came from, it wasn't disposable.
Yeah.
It was monumental. It
Yeah.
was memorable. It was times where you can look at a moment and say that was a moment.
Yeah.
You know, like the first time I heard Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, or the first time you heard nothing but a G thing.
Mhm.
Like just those catch lines, like 1, 2, 3, into the 4th.
Yeah.
Like those bars are monumental bars.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's a part of a hip hop experience that I feel like people don't get anymore. Getting an album and looking at all the credits. You know, when you looked at the credits and you wanted to know who did the artwork and who produced it,
Yeah.
who mixed it, who
Yeah.
mastered it, and
Yeah.
dreaming of like, I'm gonna have Big Bass Brian master my rap record.
Right,
You feel me?
Right.
So I feel like all of those elements of this culture have provided me a means to provide for my family,
Yeah.
a means to see the world, a means to do stuff for my community. You know what I mean? Like when we're doing Christmas tree drives or toy drives or turkey giveaways, feeding our people and different stuff like that, or you know, partnering with CJ McCullum and Amine and all of that. Like those are all that's all through hip hop.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but it's also a vehicle and a vessel to be able to contribute and give back to your community, not just, you know, take or
Yeah.
exploit. So
Yeah.
I feel like hip hop has done so much for me to where it's like all I can do is, you know, I feel blessed to be able to have been a part of something that I love and something that started as a passion or a hobby.
Yeah.
But then it became something that benefited my life in so many different areas.
Yeah, which is so dope. And I want to circle back a little bit because every year we do get to see those things that you do when it comes to holiday times, making sure that those who maybe don't have underrepresented, don't have access to, that you are on the forefront of doing coat drives, of doing toy drives, of doing turkey giveaways. And I mean, I feel like every year I see that you are doing that. And even though you know, you don't have to, but you choose to do that. And there's not a lot of fanfare around it. You know, it seems from afar, it seems that the celebrity that you do have, you use purposefully to provide opportunities for others, which is commendable, bro.
No, because even how I got in position in certain ways was from somebody showing me, and I got to give a big shout out to David Parks, because when I was first started putting out albums and started gaining the ability to influence people or have a voice, David Parks, he had moved here from out of town, and he came and sat down with me and said, when we created POH-HOP, he sat down with me and was like, yo, people in Portland listen to you. I want you to help me spearhead an idea I have, which is the Portland, Oregon Hip Hop Festival.
Yeah.
But through that, he showed me also ways that we could use these platforms to not just, I'm gonna put on a show, but I'm gonna put on a show, but we can have it benefit something.
Yeah.
You know, and then another person too was watching Tragedy. I don't know if you remember Tragedy.
Tragedy 503.
Tragedy 503. Yeah, he was with Ed and them.
Yep.
But Tragedy would do his toy drive and raise toys and had us come perform. And then I think one year we kind of did it together, but then I think he either had health issues or something and stopped doing it. And so then I was like, well, Tragedy's not doing toy drive, so I might as well do a toy drive. But I learned that from him.
Yeah.
So it's so many times that even being able to give back, you pick that up from other people, and you learn that you can use all these platforms to also contribute something positive back to your community or the people that just need it. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been some hard times.
I think about, you know, oftentimes when we think about hip hop, we think about, I don't know, it seems like typically we think about rap, which is one of the elements. But there are many elements of hip hop, and one that is adopted that doesn't really get talked about a lot is education.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about, I feel like, is a part of that, drawing people in to meet the needs of folk. One of the things that's been interesting for me as I've lived here and been a part of the hip hop community and been embraced by people who are native to Portland, like yourself, who have welcomed me in, which I'm so grateful for. But even through today, when I meet people on my 9 to 5, people say, "Man, there's hip hop in Portland." After all of these years, man, is that something that you still run into?
I mean, for me, because most of the people that I end up around, they kind of know, like, oh, okay, he's a rapper,
right?
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think people from out of town, they don't think that there's a thriving hip hop scene, because every time you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, Portland, it's cows out there, or it's the country, or, you know, or are there black people?" Right. You know,
still get that.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where more so outside the city, but you do hear that, you know, outside the city.
This makes me laugh every time I hear that. You talked about the avenues and the other things that you've been able to do through this thing. I mean, you know, we grew up banging on lunch tables at school, writing rhymes, and I mean, that's where it started. And you have gone on to really been successful as a businessman in terms of managing. And you mentioned Trap Kitchen. So for people who are here, who are listening to this, who may not be familiar with what Trap Kitchen is, and people in the city who have an opportunity to really take part in that, man, let people know what Trap Kitchen is.
So Trap Kitchen is two young men from Compton who were or are from what would be rival neighborhoods. One is a Blood, one is a Crip, and they came together, they started cooking, and Trap Kitchen is essentially, instead of selling drugs, they were trapping, selling food out of apartments. So they started advertising on social media, and as they advertised on social media, it's gained more popularity and became viral. So then they started cooking for everybody from, you know, Snoop Dogg, Kobe Bryant. They've been on Snoop and Martha, The Breakfast Club, and then my good friend Mikey Vegas ended up meeting Spank through somebody else in Vegas, and then Spank started coming to Portland, and as Spank started coming to Portland, he saw what we were doing with the music, and he was like, I want to incorporate some of that with the food. So we started doing the Feed Our People tours, where we would go around the country and do a pop-up. Essentially, we rent a venue, cook, have a DJ, and then sell hard tickets to come have dinner, meet the chefs. And through that spawned also, and not just through the Feed Our People, but just the overall entity of Trap Kitchen fueled the food trucks. It also fueled the which now is a standing location in the Roseland Theater, Trap Kitchen Oakland, plenty of, you know, catering ventures, cookbooks, and so much more. And also has provided a lot of opportunities for other people. So, you know, it went from trapping out of an apartment to multiple food trucks, 2 standing locations, tours all around the country, going to Brooklyn and selling 120 hard tickets, going to Cincinnati, Houston, Dallas, Denver, Miami, and then also now, actually the end of this month, we have an activation with Pepsi in the from January 29th to February 25th, where we have a standing pop-up in the Mandalay Bay and Luxor for a month, in a partnership with Pepsi. So all of those things have come from grassroots efforts, but again, it spawned from the music elements of, you know, of the hip-hop culture. We collaborated with the food and culinary world, and created so many vehicles for us to be able to push the food now, along with the music and everything else, you know, which also, we just did Trap Kitchen Weekend at the Roseland. We brought in some artists from LA and also, you know, DJs. It was just like a culture weekend, food and everything. It was dope. So it's just a lot to be said for how these collaborations come together.
No doubt. And if people who are here in the room, people who are listening to this in the city, or who are thinking about coming into the city, it's a spot that people can actually go and get a plate of food.
It's inside. Like I said, it's inside the Roseland Theater, Tuesday to Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then also during all the concerts, we provide the food for all the concerts. So, you know, big shout out to Spank, News, Mikey, Monty, everybody that's involved, you know, with Trap Kitchen, you know, Car, everybody that's been pushing the line.
Do you know how many if we just say albums, do you know how many albums you released?
I think it's like 20 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's albums. That doesn't include singles. Doesn't include EPs.
No, that's albums. That's just albums. That don't include. Yeah, that don't
that's
include
ridiculous,
everything.
bro. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
So you've been at this thing for a minute, and you're obviously well celebrated in hip hop culture here in the city of Portland. You talked about the management things that you've been doing. Some of the management, that's not even all of it. Some of the management things that you've been doing, but you're also still an active recording artist.
Oh yeah, that's not gonna stop. Honestly, that's not gonna stop because I love it so much, and I feel like where I am now, over the years, I've just gotten better and better, even at creating music. It just so happens that, hip hop is a young man's game.
Yeah.
I'm not out chasing platinum records or anything like that,
Right.
but I'm chasing just putting out good music and having people hear it. So the artist part, that's gonna consistently stay there.
That's what's up. You just released a project with a frequent collaborator, someone who from afar seems like it's really just family.
Yeah.
The title of the project is Red Meth. Sort of a shout out to Red Man and Method Man, because it seems like that's the relationship that y'all have, man. But that's my assumption. You tell me.
That's the exact point of the title of the album is that me and Maniac, like you said, that's family. That's like my brother.
Yeah.
And we've grown up together in music and through so many things. And if you come to a show and you see us rock, it's organic. It's you're gonna get that energy. We want to get the crowd going, and it's very, very similar to what Method Man and Red Man do, and the chemistry is like, I feel like Red Man and Method Man are like the your everyday working man hip hop that everybody can understand.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we are. It's just straightforward. Method Man has always been that, especially Red Man. And I feel like, me and Maniac, we connect in that way.
Yeah.
So that was the whole point of the album, is Red and Meth. So people that really know hip hop understand what that title means in terms of the connectivity or the chemistry and how we come together.
Absolutely. It's crazy because you dropped the album and then you have visuals for joints from the album. First 48 is the one that I really dig. There's something that comes across I think when people listen to the music that you've released, people might say that it kind of sits in a particular category that, as you mentioned, it's very straightforward. It could be considered pretty hard.
Yeah.
But you've always had this lightheartedness to you as a human being.
Yeah.
Like there's never a time that I haven't seen you that we wasn't making jokes about something.
Yeah.
And it comes across in the music that you release as well, specifically on First 48, man.
Yeah.
Just your personality coming through like that.
Because because I feel like, man, life should be funny.
Yeah.
And so many things are funny that need to be conveyed to people in terms of humor.
Yeah.
In terms of even when we're doing a show, making people feel comfortable and making them understand we come from, truth be told, we come from a certain environment in terms of Northeast Portland. We grew up during the crack era, during the gang era, I've seen a lot of my friends unfortunately pass away.
Yeah.
And so it's some of that is conveyed in the music when you say it's hard, because it's not, a lot of it is not so much to be hard, but it's really to translate what we've been through, what we lived through, and what our life has been.
Yeah.
It's really truthfully told not to glamorize or glorify certain things, but to talk about, touch on, and report on how things we had to experience. And that's what First 48 is too. Yeah. But also, I want people to look at it and say nah, he's personable, or he's funny, or I can relate to that, or just humor does a lot for a lot of things, man, and I feel like it opens a lot of doors for people to feel welcome.
Yeah.
You know, even at a show, like you come out and beats are hitting and music is going a certain way, and then you know in between the song, I'm gonna crack jokes. Like you know, it damn near might be a comedy skit.
Right.
But it's to make people feel, you know, vulnerable or open, or like if I say put your hands up, It's not. I don't want you to feel like, you know, everything is so hard. It's gonna be so hard.
Right.
I can't have a good time. You know, we want you to have a good time.
Yeah.
I want you to laugh. I want to joke with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's my personality anyway. Like I don't want people to come around me and feel uncomfortable or anything. I want you to feel like if we around each other, you leave and you say, "Oh no, he was cool."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's always come across to me. You always put that vibe out there, which I think is really appreciated, especially, you know, by people who only know you from seeing you on stage. You know what I'm saying, in the Motor Center. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I love that about your personality. The project is out now. Something that you folks worked on for a minute, obviously.
Yeah.
You have some. They're guest MCs, but it's like people that you just know.
Oh yeah. And we kept it light though. We mainly me, Maniac, Dre, Steves, rest in peace, Dre.
Yeah.
It's Maniac's son.
Yeah.
Of course.
Kenny Mac on there.
Kenny Mac, Too Short, RJ.
Yeah.
And Bosco's on there too. But we just kept it like we mainly wanted to focus on us, and I also wanted to put a spotlight on Maniac because sometimes he doesn't get the props that he deserves for who he is and what he's done within Portland hip hop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So another thing with that project was really also to showcase him and put him in the forefront. That's why it's Maniac, Loc, and Cool Nutz.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Versus Cool Nutz and Maniac, Loc.
Right.
Because I want him to always also get his, you know, his propers, as they say.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, man, and I didn't know. Because it's sort of tough, but you alluded to it, Dre Steves. You know, it's interesting. Life is interesting, man, and when we see how things are here in Portland, and I've had people who are from outside the city say, "Man, what's going on in Portland? This, that, and the third." Going back, obviously, to a lot of the things that were going on pre and during the pandemic, but in terms of the level of discord and I mean, to be blunt, the level of violence that's happening in our city right now. One thing that's sad is that oftentimes it in and of itself is associated with rap music, which is just unfair. But to have someone who was being celebrated as an up-and-coming artist, but then someone who was family, someone who was that close, someone who I'm sure you had great influence on from, you know, in terms of artistic endeavors. I was talking to Zebulon Dak from Minimum Studios, and he was saying Dre was like constantly there recording. Can you speak to, you know, to it all, the state of our city, and those artists who might be exposed to some of those unfortunate situations?
I mean, the Drake thing is tough because as our city progresses and we, you know, as we get older, and I was started doing music at a serious level at probably Dre's journey is kind of real similar to ours in terms of where he started becoming popular. He started having a real voice. He started having a fan base, but also starting to understand that some of this violence, it becomes like now it's becoming generational. Yeah. In terms of I've watched coming up in high school, we watched it start. You know what I'm saying? So watching it start, then watching the people next to you, like untimely deaths, and just put it bluntly, murder. People be murdered. You know, like I've had, like my brother was murdered, my best friend. You know, multiple other friends and relatives and everything else. So the real tragic part about people like Dre is now it's becoming our friends' kids. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like Dre grew up with my daughter. Maniac is one of my best friends, you know, in the world.
Yeah.
I watched, and I know the love he has for his son.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing because I know the light. I saw the light in him
Yeah.
because I had the privilege of working with him so closely, and I had the privilege of watching him grow up from being like coming on this earth.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing that becomes, like I said, the problem is now you have people that aren't even getting a chance to live their lives.
Yeah.
And when I say, like, I've had a fruitful life, I've seen a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen a lot, I've done a lot, and I got to experience a lot. So then you watch a young man like him who is in the prime of his life, who's doing a lot of the stuff we were doing, who's he's ushering a whole new era of music in Portland.
Yeah.
And then having that taken away, and then I have to watch his father deal with it. I have to watch his sisters deal with it.
Yeah.
And then you have to also start understanding, like, he's one of many.
Yeah.
You know, like even in his friend circle, there's him and probably 4 or 5 others in his friend circle that are of the same age that have all been lost their lives due to gun violence.
Yeah.
So it's like, when they say it's a problem, it's a problem. It's a real problem. And we have a lot of stuff that occurred even during the pandemic that has also somewhat played a role in that, with law enforcement, with city politics, with just the overall state of the city, to where, you know, there's just certain things that aren't creating, that aren't making certain parts of this violence an obstacle.
Yeah.
It's like a free-for-all,
Yeah.
you know? And so it's a tough thing to have to even watch, because it's not even so much of how I feel just about the violence. It's how I feel about the loss of life of young people and people that I know, and watching so many of my friends and family and their suffer the losses of their children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you get to a point where multiple grown people are outliving their children, not, you know what I'm saying? Not because your kids are going to Vietnam, not because your kids are going to, you know, World War II or Afghanistan, but because your kids are at a club or in downtown Portland or in Northeast Portland or Southeast Portland or wherever it may be, that the violence is that prevalent that people can lose their lives in broad daylight, nighttime, the grocery store, parking lot of the grocery store. You know, it's just something that some of it's not even any words for, honestly, man.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Rest in peace to Dre Steves, and you know, continued condolences to his family for sure. As one of the things that's always been valuable, and one of the things that's been important to me, is to give people their flowers, because situations like that and others, life is short, man. You know what I mean? Health problems, whatever. And I think it's important to do that. Something happened to you recently where you had an opportunity to be celebrated for the work that you've done artistically. I mentioned it in the intro. You, sir, you're a Hall of Famer. You were inducted into the Oregon Music Hall of Fame, man. That's so dope. Was that something that you aspired for? Is it something that you look to? Is it, you know, how does it feel to be in that situation?
It was the Oregon Music Hall of Fame. It, you know, it wasn't like a Grammy or anything. No, I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. It's a huge accomplishment, because so many times for what we do, and even the type of music that we do, even in this city, to be recognized, and also, like, what people don't understand is a big part of what I've done with music is also attributed to Portland's independent music scene, like whether it's the rock scene or just indie music in general. And I learned a lot from watching a lot of these artists climb the ladder, being in certain rooms, and also being appreciated in certain rooms, or being put on certain shows with some of the indie rock artists, or you know, or having people reach out to me and give me my credit, but then being at that the Hall of Fame induction thing and being in the same room, and they're recognizing Esperanza Spalding, they're recognizing other rock bands, and saying that you're not just in the company of just hip hop music, you're in the company of all Oregon music, you know?
Yeah.
And people don't understand the struggles and the challenges when you're doing this and you're working for yourself. And art, doing your art is a hard thing because you got to believe in yourself. There's the ups and the downs. There's the moments of failure. And some of it's not even due to anything you did. It's just the climate of the business. It could be politics. It could be having a record deal and an executive changes at the record label. So all of that, those accolades validate all of those struggles and challenges and failures and shortcomings. But even the wins. So that was a big accomplishment because it validates you in terms of putting you in a circle of greatness with people that have also achieved great things that I also look up to as well.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Once again, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you,
that.
bro. I appreciate that.
So one of the things that I love about the opportunity to do Klyph Notes Live, and once again, thank you so much to Portland Center Stage, the Armory, is a chance to put fans and people in rooms with creatives, and creating an opportunity for people to talk to you directly. You know, I know we in social media, so people can like hit you on the gram or whatever and ask you questions, but I think there's nothing like just being in the room with people.
Yeah.
So we have some people here, and we're gonna get into the Q&A here in a minute. I'm gonna kick it off because there was a question that was presented about Cool Nutz. Someone who was doing their research on who Cool Nutz wasn't super familiar with you, and did their background, but they had a question. And the question is, what's up with the name Cool Nutz?
People, that's funny because people think that it means like my nuts are cool.
Right.
But it really means, because really with the type of music that I do, it's not super high energy and it's not super slow. But then when we do the show, it can be energy. You know what I mean? So Cool Nutz it really means like cool but could be crazy. So Cool Nutz, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it always get that of like, cool nuts. Are your nuts cool? And it's like, you know, and I really like, recently more people start asking, well, how did you get the name?
Yeah.
And I tell them like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that doesn't
So
necessarily.
that's what it really means. you
Okay.
know?
I appreciate you clarifying that.
Yeah.
So I know that we have some people in the room. So I want to offer up the microphone if anybody has questions for Cool Nutz Live here on the Klyph Notes. Oh, I see a hand went up. Come up, grab the microphone because we want to definitely get your voice on the recording. Introduce yourself.
My name's Trent, aka DJ Renz. I got a question, but I want to first just give a nod to you for being a very inspiring individual as far as business minded. Ever since POH-HOP, you've instilled like a business savvy to me. And there's an instance, I don't know if you remember this, I'm just going to bring it up real quick, but I think it was POH-HOP 3, our crew, Portland Street Rockers, was wanting to be a part of the POH-HOP, to be performers. And we had a conversation with you somewhere out and about, and you were like, just send me a press kit. I'm like, what's a press kit? You're like, bio and some photos. So we went to Kinko's, typed up some long 4-page bio, I think, on just, a small group of us. We hadn't done much, very little accolades at that point. And we just normally have been asked to perform and do things. So the fact you wanted a press kit in this now, like, you serious, right? And then we did photos. We didn't know what we were doing for a photo shoot. We took one of those disposable cameras, woke up one morning, we need to turn it in today. We need photos. So you commented on this too. We had just rolled out of bed, threw on our sweat outfits, our shoes, and we posed up against the wall, did some really weird poses and stuff, and submitted it. And we got back from you, and you're like, no. I'll never forget this because I felt really dumb at the time. But he's like, man, your shoelaces are untied in there. You guys look like you just woke up. You're a mess. You can see furniture in the background, all these things. That's not what I'm talking about. So I mean, from that point, literally, it instilled something in me to be mindful of how you present yourself in business, and if you want something, right? You can't just expect somebody to hand you something, and if they're expecting you to be presentable about something, you really have to do that. And I want to thank you for that, because obviously, it's made an impression on me, because I remember it to this day. But you learn things, right? But you obviously are like Portland's mayor when it comes to business-mindedness, and you're always an inspiration. But my question is in your growth of being an individual and an artist and everything, what got you into artist management? What was the epiphany that hit you where you're like, I want to be, I want to start managing people or get into artist management? I mean, was there like a moment of need, or was it just something you decided to do?
No, it was mainly, thanks for telling that story. That was great. But before I answer the question about the management, but the bio thing of what I was saying about David Parks, like you said, that was POH-HOP 3, because POH-HOP 1 and 2 were a madhouse for artist submissions. So David was like, we got to step up the submission process and actually make the artists work for it. You know what I mean? Like, and really have them present themselves the right way, and also make it kind of a teaching moment of like, this is how you have to present yourself. This is how you have to walk in the door with a bio, with a press kit. Because when we first started POH-HOP, the first year was one night and we did 600 people. The second year was 2 nights and we did 800 people the first night and 1,000 people the second night. And so David was just like, man, we have to, like, with the numbers we're doing, with how many artists are submitting, we have to make sure the artists are presenting themselves in a way that they separate themselves from the serious artists from the ones that aren't as serious. So that's why we did that. It wasn't just so you didn't think we were trying to be difficult or anything. Yeah.
I respected it then.
Yeah.
Back now, I really respect it now.
Yeah. And everybody doesn't take it that way, Some people take it as they don't understand. Like, you have people that get mad. They think that you're just trying to set up roadblocks and obstacles in the process. But it's like there's no real big opportunity, whether it's South by Southwest or anything like that, to where I didn't have to submit a package, a photo, a press kit, a bio, all of those things, some music or whatever. So, I appreciate you telling that story. But then the question about the management was, I got into management not because I wanted to get into management, but because it was always a thing where people saw what I was doing for myself. So as I got around people and we would like say, I booked a show and we brought an artist would get around me and see how I handled things. Your hotel was nice. We picked you up from the airport. Venue was nice. Everything was laid out right. The communication was right. The money was handled correctly. We sent over a contract, and then say we did a few shows where we went out of town. I have this artist with me, and they're seeing how we're moving. Okay, he picked me up on time. We're in a clean minivan. Got me to the next hotel, and say we did. If I was working with like the Loonies, like Yuck Mouth and the Loonies, they're good friends of mine, but they would always see like Cool Nutz handles his business. So then I started having artists that would reach out. I was telling Klyph earlier a story about I got hired to tour manage for one artist that was on a tour, and there were multiple artists on the tour. But when I got to the tour and I started handling stuff for him, the other artists started seeing how I was handling stuff for him, and they were like, look, you just need to manage the whole tour. You know what I'm saying? Because management is a thing about streamlining the operation, making it more efficient, and making sure, and especially with artists, is making sure that it's not so much about blowing an artist up. Like, you can meet an artist, and every artist is not going to be Jay-Z, but if an artist or anything you touch, whether it's an artist, whether it's like we say with Trap Kitchen, whether it's with a tap dancer, whoever, when you start working with them, in the middle of that process, can they say, he took me somewhere that I wasn't when we start working together. You know what I mean? Where the business elevated versus staying where it was. If you were playing shows, you might have been making $100 a show. By the time we finished, were you making $1,000 a show? Were you doing shows in different places that you hadn't done shows? Did you get some better PR opportunities? You know, did your visibility increase? You know, did you get to travel out the country and maybe do a show internationally to where you can say, now I can add that to my portfolio? So that was always my goal in terms of, even with management, was showing if we're working together, I want to help elevate what you're doing versus we staying stagnant where you are. But then also, it's not just about money, it's about creating opportunity, and it's about believing in an artist and having an artist or anybody you're doing business with understand that, you know, that you believe in them. Because that's the thing, there's nothing like, whether it's with a record label or a manager or any type of person working for you, the feeling of having somebody that truly believes in you is so powerful and inspires an artist or an athlete or whoever to work harder, and even gives them a whole nother level of faith in themselves. You know what I mean? And even for me as an artist, like, there's people that I've worked with and they just make me feel like no, you did that, or I'll go the extra mile for you. I know, or I don't even have to say nothing. I just know that that my best interest is what's at hand for them, you know. So that's what really got me into management, was people seeing how I handle myself and how I would navigate opportunities and things like that. Yeah.
Any other questions for Cool Nutz? I see some heads nodding. Okay. Well, we're gonna do this, man. Before we get into this next segment, as I said, we're representing or celebrating 50 years of hip hop. I'm excited to see what happens. I've seen Rock the Bells talk about some of the things that they're doing and kind of celebrating the past, and people should probably stay connected to DJ Klyph Productions, because I'll be making an announcement coming up pretty soon about something that I'm looking forward to doing to celebrate this art form. Do you have any plan, anything that you're working on that you can share today?
In terms of
anything you planning to do in 2023 during this year?
I mean, mainly, I just want to continue to elevate what we're already doing and just amplify it even more.
Yeah.
And then even with my music, putting out more music.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I just want to stay busy and active and create new opportunities. Like, so for 2023, like, that's my main goal, is taking it up a notch, and you know, like we talked about earlier, like bringing back POH-HOP. That's one of the things I'm definitely gonna do this year. So
So for people who don't know, POH-HOP is a Portland, Oregon hip hop festival.
Yep.
So when I first moved here, and I was just trying to figure out, back in the day, you know, I used to rap back in the day.
I didn't know that.
When I first moved to Oregon, I was just y'all don't want none of these bars. When I first moved to Oregon, I was just trying to figure out, like, you know, trying to navigate what was the local scene like coming from New Orleans. And I remember going to my first POH-HOP and was just blown away by the sheer size of the event, and having an opportunity to then meet, like, local artists aside from the people you brought in, but like the local creatives, I think was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And the last one was POH-HOP 10?
No. 14.
14. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that you're bringing that back, like, that's huge, bruh. That's huge. So that's definitely to be celebrated. I can't wait to hear more about what's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah. And we're looking forward to it, because I think Portland definitely needs all of the contributions that we can all put forward, in terms of, like, what you guys doing, Hip Hop Week, and so many other dope things that represent the culture, Sneaker Week, and all of those things that that help create a presence for all the stuff that spawns from the culture.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I know I've said this 100 times, but it really does come from the heart. I feel so honored to be able to just have your telephone number in my phone where I can just pick it up and call you. And like you're saying, not even necessarily on some music stuff, but like just on a checking in on a brother and you know. So thank you, like I said, for welcoming me in as someone who is a transplant to the city, not only as a resident, but as a part of the scene, someone who just loves the art form. I truly appreciate it, for real.
No, I appreciate your support, bro, because you've always showed me nothing but love and support on any of the platforms or opportunities you've always had. You've always reached out, and if you have something going on, you know, try to include me.
Yeah.
And so we truly appreciate that.
That's what's up. Once again, man, thank y'all so much for coming out for this Klyph Notes Live. If you haven't yet, subscribe. Klyph Notes Live, or the Klyph Notes podcast, is available on all podcast platforms. Literally everywhere you listen to audio, except for Tidal. It's not on Tidal yet. But Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, like you name it, it's available there. And please help me show a form of gratitude to Cool Nutz for being our guest tonight.
Thank you.
Also, once again, thank you to Portland Center Stage. Thank you to Akepele Apparel for continuing to be a supporter of the Klyph Notes podcast. Please be sure to check out the merch table in the back. So another one of the things that I love about being able to do Klyph Notes Live, bringing artists here to be in the room with people, is that they're artists and they create art and they present art. So since he's here, should we ask Cool Nutz if he would, you know, he's been talking about the music that he makes. Should we ask Cool Nutz to maybe do a little short performance for y'all? Look, I don't know if y'all ever been to a show that I'm at, but like if you want somebody to perform, I need more energy than that, yo. Should we get Cool Nutz to do a couple joints? Okay. So here's the other thing that's really cool for me. I don't know. I've never DJ'd for you before, have I?
Did you? You might have once.
Maybe.
And
Anyway.
yeah, we want to thank everybody for coming out, and make sure also when you see Klyph Notes Live, you tell a friend.
Yo. Once again, y'all make some noise for Cool Nutz. I know that he gonna hang out, sign autographs, the whole nine. Brother, man, much love to you, bro. For real.
Yeah, big shout to DJ Klyph, man.
That's what's up, bro. That's what's up. All right, y'all. So we're going to get into a video mix. This is from DJ OG1. We're going to hang out for just a little bit longer, man. Once again, please check out the merch table in the back. Once again, man, thank you so much, man. This is Klyph Notes Live. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Peace.